cycling advocates are slamming amendments to the Ford government's controversial bill to remove bike lanes, saying these new changes would protect the province from being liable if cyclists are hurt or killed after the lanes are removed. Queen's Park reporter Lorena Redekop takes us through it.
It was a committee meeting where the Ford government, they brought up a whole bunch of amendments to that controversial bill that we've heard so much about. And one NDP MPP says that this takes a bad bill and makes it into a terrible bill. There are pages of amendments. One of them seems to take away the ability for cyclists and their families to sue if they are injured or killed. That's how the NDP sees it. Take a listen to one of their members in the committee.
Says it specifically any individual who is injured or killed because of a collision between a bike and a vehicle. So the Conservatives want to wash their hands from the blood that will be spilled. It will be spilled when these bike lanes are removed.
And so we tried to get a clear response from the transportation minister. Is this really what this is about? And so we asked that over and over. We didn't really get a clear answer, but here's one of his responses.
We've put forward these amendments, and our amendments are kept in a way which we want to maintain safety, and we think the best way to do so is to do so on having bicycle lanes on side streets.
And so he was clearer in another question that we had, because there's another amendment that talks about being able to take away the bike lanes through the entirety of Bloor Street. And he says, yes, that could happen, but that they are looking at where they will do that. The opposition is upset about that, and also several other amendments. Also, there's one, it talks about reasonable costs that they will pay for the removal of bike lanes. We know that they don't agree with what the city has said it would cost, $48 million. Here's one of the questions that the NDP posed.
What are reasonable costs? Like, who determines what are reasonable? Well, the minister, yes. Which I haven't known too many, I haven't seen too many ministry decisions to be reasonable.
And so the government amendments, they passed in that committee, but this all has to still go to the House as a whole for third reading of this bill with the government's majority that is expected to pass.
That was our Lorena Redekop reporting. Cycling advocates are also fighting back against this amended bill, riding to Queen's Park tonight to protest the legislation while honoring 2 cyclists who were killed on the road this month. Dale Manukduk has more on that.
So this will be a somber ghost ride.
Hundreds of cyclists gathered at Matt Cohen Park before departing for Queen's Park. When they arrived, they raised 2 white bikes in the air.
Please remove your headdress if you can.
After a moment of silence, they locked the bikes nearby. The group Advocacy for Respect for Cyclists makes a white bike each time a cyclist dies. These 2 are for a 47-year-old woman who died in Kingston on November 2nd. The smaller bike for a 13-year-old girl killed in Ajax 2 days later.
My hope is that people across the province and larger municipalities are really upset. This is a huge overreach. In the case of Toronto, this bill is now, with the amendments that happened today, we're going to be saddled with $50 million at least of cost to remove these bike lanes.
The amendments to Bill 212 include sections that shield the province from having to reimburse a municipality for the removal of bike lanes. Advocates are also outraged the changes will mean the province will be shielded from liability if cyclists are hurt or killed after the lanes are removed.
Government has basically put in legislative amendments that say any injury, any breach of contract, any bad faith arguments associated with removing bike lanes. If someone gets injured because a bike lane has been removed and they got hit by a car, you can't sue the government. So basically they're trying to insulate themselves from any legal action. This is deeply concerning. We're really upset about it. They're playing politics with our safety to score political points in the suburbs, and it's unconscionable.
If the bill receives royal ascension and is passed, the advocates have a plan B.
Vigilant! We have to stop this bill. If it does pass, we have to vote this government out.
Dale Manukduk, CBC News, Toronto.
A man is dead and his son in custody following a stabbing at a Scarborough home last night. We spoke with a neighbor at the scene.
It's a loss for the neighborhood because he was a really good man, right? He was really nice and outgoing and very helpful with his neighbors.
Officers responded to the home on Finch Avenue East and McCowan Road at around 11 p.m. When they arrived, they found an injured man who was later pronounced dead at the scene. Police say the victim's 32-year-old son has been arrested in connection to the stabbing. Toronto police have arrested and charged the mother of a baby that died on Wednesday. Police were called to an apartment building in the Eglinton and Allen area just before 11:30 a.m. for reports of a 4-month-old baby missing. And when officers arrived, they found the infant with critical injuries. The baby was rushed to hospital where they were pronounced dead. Caressa Edwards of Toronto has been arrested and charged with failure to provide the necessities of life. Last night's heavy rains caused a large sinkhole to form along a section of Parkside Drive near High Park. Greg Ross has more on what happened and how it's impacting residents in the area.
A steady stream of residents from the High Park area came down to see this sinkhole on Parkside Drive firsthand.
Have you ever seen anything like this?
Never in my life, no.
Pretty crazy.
A large chunk of earth had collapsed at the side of the road just south of High Park Boulevard.
And this is just a freak thing, I guess. I mean, it happens. The whole city is hollow.
The city closed down Parkside Drive as a precaution, creating another nuisance for residents as traffic spilled off onto some of the nearby side streets.
I'm just on a side street right over there, and I've never seen it. It's basically like a major thoroughfare right now, just because all of the traffic's being diverted.
This man was riding his bike here last night and captured this video. Parkside Drive was completely flooded after a heavy rainfall.
All I saw was water up to my knees and like garbage bins in the middle of the street.
This man says flooding here is not unusual.
Especially this time of year where you get a big rainfall and you have all the leaves.
The leaves clogged this storm drain in front of the sinkhole.
One of the biggest concerns for people in this neighborhood is the fact that the ground has given way on both sides of this hydro pole, which has now started to lean slightly to one side.
Well, I hope that doesn't drop then, because then we're going to lose power.
I imagine at some point, yeah, it'll probably have to get fixed, or if it doesn't come down first.
Some here wonder if this sinkhole is only going to get bigger.
If it continues to rain, which it's supposed to, because we're getting 7 days of rain.
A spokesperson for the city told CBC News that they're now working with utility providers to investigate what repairs are needed. Greg Ross, CBC News, Toronto.
After a few days off, Taylor Swift's Eras Tour is back at the Rogers Centre tonight, drawing tens of thousands of fans to our city. But her sold-out tour is also prompting the price gouging of unsuspecting Swifties. Our municipal affairs reporter, Sean Jeffords, has more on what's being done to crack down on this kind of illegal behavior.
What the city is doing is it has its bylaw enforcement officers out enforcing the rules, handing out tickets. And what they're really finding is that they're seeing price increases at parking lots, people gouging people coming into the city to park to see the show. You know, the rules are that you have to post your rate and then you have to pay or charge that rate. So the city is enforcing that rule. Let's hear from the head of licensing and standards, Carlton Grant, for the city here about what those officers are seeing.
What's happening is people are, those parking lots are charging $40, $50, and that is not, that's not what's permitted within our bylaws. It's price gouging. It's not permitted. They need to take advantage of the opportunities with the sheer volume of people coming and parking, but not raising their prices.
So, Kel, the other thing that licensing and standards bylaw officers are really looking at here is rideshare and taxis. They're trying to ensure that the rules are followed there, too, so that when you get into one of these vehicles, that those drivers are following the rules and charging people accordingly. So posting their rates, or in the case of rideshare apps, not soliciting riders, because that's against the rules here in Toronto.
Yeah, and Sean, what is the city doing about that?
In short, they're handing out tickets, hundreds of infractions at this point. The lead in offense at this point is 96 tickets for these parking lot operators who are jacking up their prices. You've got dozens more people who are, violating the rules when it comes to taxis and also the ride share as well. So, these officers are out 25 a shift each concert enforcing those rules and handing out those tickets.
And Sean, you spoke with Mayor Olivia Chow earlier today, and she had a message for businesses raising their prices for the show. What did she tell you?
So the mayor had some pretty blunt words, actually, for businesses. She was saying, look, if you are thinking about this, if you are thinking about taking advantage of people coming to see the show, either from in the city or out of town, think twice. So here's Mayor Olivia Chow on that.
Count on getting caught if you are gouging, if you are not obeying the law. And they know full well what they're doing, right? They know full well what they should do. And all 96 parking lots tickets, right? That's a lot of infraction just with 3 days. With 3 more days like tonight and Friday and Saturday, perhaps they could just take a break, obey the law, and not gouge people.
So, Kelda, what the mayor is really saying there is this is also a good learning experience. This is it gives the city the ability to learn from what it's done here and apply that to FIFA in 2026 when it has another massive event. And, it's going to have to go and enforce those rules all over again.
Absolutely. All right. Thanks so much, Sean. Municipal Affairs reporter Sean Jeffords at the Rogers Centre. As we get closer to the holiday season, police are ramping up their ride checks, reminding people that driving while intoxicated has deadly consequences and that the stats back it up. Ali Chiasson has more.
Now that we're approaching holiday party season, the police and Solicitor General have a message for people getting behind the wheel drunk.
We have room for you in our jails. We will find you and we will lock you up.
It's the launch of the Festive Ride campaign. That stands for Reduce Impaired Driving Everywhere, which means police will be out with breathalyzers, pulling people over and checking for signs of impairment. That's what they're doing, but police are asking for your help as well.
First and foremost, never let anyone get behind the wheel after you know that they have been consuming drugs or alcohol. If you see or suspect an impaired driver during their travels, don't hesitate to call 911. And report them to the police immediately. This is no small gesture. I am proud and happy for the more than 15,000 citizens who have made such a call to the OPP this year alone, and I thank them.
28 years later today, still feel emotional about this.
Steve Meehan's whole life changed when he was struck by a drunk driver.
I ended up with a traumatic brain injury. You're not the same person you were before. Myself, I had frequent anger outbursts. I had memory loss. Couldn't remember anything that was going on. No, it's not only me that suffered during this, it was my family and my close friends. They were the ones that suffered.
In Ontario, 1 out of 3 road deaths involve an impaired driver. This year so far, 44 people have died on OPP-patrolled roads in drunk driving collisions. Steve Meehan considers himself one of the lucky ones to have lived and feels it's important to humanize the numbers.
We need to be out there and be in front of people, let them know the drastic effects it can have on people's lives, the victims themselves, but also the families afterwards. We got to think about them too.
Expect to see ride checks in cities, suburbs, highways, and side roads all season long. Ali Chiasson, CBC News, Toronto.
Welcome back. A church in the annex that has been converted into 7 boutique units has officially hit the market. Experts say missing middle housing in residential areas like this one is important to the building of vibrant neighborhoods. As Talia Ricci reports, the city is working to make builds like this easier.
This building in the annex has had many lives over the decades, from being a church, a school, and offices. Now the latest iteration is housing, dubbed the Brunswick Lofts.
We've created this incredible church conversion, and it's 7 luxury units that are all 2-story, and each one has its own front door and its own street front feeling and connection to the street, but each one is its own house, if you will. This is unit 6. So it's one of our penthouse units.
Jeff Kopis says creating a development like this isn't easy. It was a 6-year-long process.
It's an unusual project, right? It's not a house renovation, and it's not a 10-story condo building. It's something in between.
And it's that kind of missing middle infill housing that the city says it's working to create more of. According to the city, in total, there are 298 low-rise projects, 388 mid-rise projects, and 1,051 high-rise projects that propose residential development in the development pipeline, which consists of projects with any development activity over the last 5 years.
It's a form of housing. It's not affordable housing, but, at the city, we're working on what we call expanding housing options, giving people more choices within neighborhoods, and it suits that. We really are looking at every opportunity. We're putting in the permission to build apartment buildings where they didn't used to exist. So sort of low-rise, 4 to 6 story apartment buildings. They are harder to shoehorn in.
Or one of our 2-bedroom garden suites.
This unit in the Brunswick Lofts is listed at almost $1.7 million. Experts say to address the housing crisis, the city needs a mix of diverse housing and government intervention.
Missing middle housing is entirely useful. We need it. In the older neighborhoods in Toronto, we had it. We had duplexes, 4plexes, 6plexes, small walk-up buildings, small apartment buildings, and there were so many advantages to that. And in the past few decades, we had shifted, as you've said, to extreme high-rise on the one hand and single-family sprawl on the other out into greenfield sites. However, all that said, it's not a panacea for affordability.
Kopis recognizes these homes aren't geared towards affordability, but believes this type of housing is something that the city needs more of to make Toronto more vibrant and livable.
I think it's beautiful. I think it adds a real home versus a box in the sky.
Talia Ricci, CBC News, Toronto.
A painting by renowned BC artist Emily Carr that was bought for just $50 US at a barn sale has now fetched almost 6,000 times as much at a Toronto auction.
Selling now at $290,000. Fair warning, last call. And sold. Congratulations.
Carr's painting titled Masset QCI went for $290,000 US, even more than art experts predicted. The oil on canvas painting from 1912 depicts a carved grizzly bear atop a memorial totem pole in the village of Masset, BC on Haida Gwaii. The auction house says the work was purchased by a New York art dealer at an estate sale. Now talk about a great return on your investment. Well, food inflation is one thing, but a multi-million-dollar banana is an entirely different matter.
Fair warning, at $5,200,000. Jen, the Catalan is yours. Congratulations. Thank you very much indeed.
The conceptual work auctioned off last night in New York is literally just a banana duct taped to a wall. A bidding for the famed piece by Italian artist Maurizio Catalan started at $800,000 US, but when all was said and done, it went for a whopping $5.2 million, plus another $1 million in auction house fees. The buyer was a Chinese collector and cryptocurrency entrepreneur. All right, let's go to Colette with a check on the forecast. And Colette, it's going to be another damp one tomorrow, right? It's kind of been that kind of week.
Yeah, we get into these waves of this rain energy coming our way, that wraps around that area of low pressure. And so a band will come through and then we get a break, but the clouds stay, and then another band. And that's the kind of situation we're going to be in for a little while yet. So a few things that are going on. First of all, where we get into these reds or oranges here, really strong winds in the upper atmosphere. So that atmospheric river that is coming in post the bomb cyclone there, but another storm they're gearing up for there on the west coast. And you can see here too some of this stronger energy, and that's helping to develop a low pressure area there along the eastern seaboard. So we have one that's near us just to the west of us, that's having an impact, and then the energy transfers to this new low off the coast, but it's still going to throw back waves and bands of shower activity our way, and in some cases some light snow. Okay, our highs from today, 5 degrees for Toronto. You see some higher numbers there towards the east. There were a few areas where there were even some sunny breaks. It was just kind of a sliver there, and some of those highs also were actually from the overnight hours, so it can be a little bit deceiving there. But just with an area of low pressure, you get this counterclockwise circulation. Okay, so tomorrow morning we'll get some more moisture that's going to be coming through towards southwestern Ontario as well. Then a bit of a break, not so for the Niagara region. You get another round into the afternoon, and a little bit of that you'll see towards southwestern Ontario. But the GTA gets lighter stuff in the afternoon, but then a repeat as we go into Saturday, where again in the morning hours, another band of showers will be moving through into the higher elevations. That's where we tend to get some of that mixing, like through the Dundalk Highlands, Haliburton, and towards areas of Algonquin Park. And even today through southwestern Ontario, there were several hours of light snow being reported, but it actually didn't really account to anything other than a trace. So in terms of precipitation, heavier stuff is going to be just tagging through the Niagara region and then into eastern Ontario. Otherwise, very, very light in nature. What will not be light will be the winds. They're going to be quite strong through the day tomorrow, especially our overnight temperatures. They're nearly steady, but with those strong winds, that 7 degrees isn't going to necessarily feel like 7. And still some showers into Saturday, maybe, just maybe, some sunny breaks for Sunday.
Let's hope. Thanks so much, Colette.
You're welcome.
And that's our show for you tonight. Thanks for joining us. Have a great night, everyone.